Welcome to Spotlight on Lakewood. I'm Mayor Adam Paul, and today we're going to continue our journey talking about community health. And this is a very important segment. Today we're here at Jefferson County Mediation Services with Executive Director Mark Loye. And we're going to talk a little bit today about healthy communication. And you can imagine that this is very important, whether it's citizen to citizen, neighbor to neighbor, or just coming and having a conversation amongst your elected officials. So Mark, thank you for having us out here today.
Sure, glad to do it. Thank you for coming out here and letting us have you as a guest.
That's fantastic. So, and I think this is really timely, this day and age, kind of the polarization of politics and the lack of communication, I think, that we sometimes see. Tell us a little bit of how people can effectively communicate, especially in tough, stressful situations, which we deal with on a daily basis.
Sure. Well, the first one might not be the first one you think about, but the first one is listen. Because you can't effectively communicate with someone else unless you hear what that person has to say. And listening is not passive. Listening is active. It is making eye contact. It's doing things to let the other person know that you hear them, saying, not necessarily I agree, but I see, I hear you, nodding, eye contact, all of these kinds of things, and it serves two functions. One is it focuses you, the listener, on what the other person is saying, and it lets them know that everything isn't just blowing by you, and it substitutes for what we always do all the time, and that is thinking of what I'm going to say when that person will just shut up. You don't do that if you're actively listening. And then when you do respond, I messages are very important, not you always do such and such, but you know, when you say these kinds of things to me, I feel hurt. When this happens, this is my reaction, not you always do, not blaming, but taking accountability for how I feel and what I want, basically. And again, don't focus on the person, focus on the problem, the issue. Let's get back to that. Let's talk about where we are, and then let's think about where we agree. Because no two people on any issue or issues disagree 100%. They agree on something. Let's focus in on where we agree and we can build on that.
So that's a great way to really approach, is looking for that commonality, and that can kind of build a rapport amongst the folks, and they can build off of that. Instead of starting from the negative position, you're saying, hey, we have this in common, we're here for this reason, this is what we disagree on, how can we move forward?
And moving forward, you just put your finger on another big thing, and that is focus on now and the future. People want to rehash the past over and over and over again. If they can say, we can't change that. What we can do is talk about what we can and should do now, how we feel now, and what that's going to do to affect the future, because we want the future to be better.
Future to be better, right? So are there different ways to communicate? So say if you're trying to work with a public body, you're coming to city council, maybe addressing the mayor, or whether you're dealing with a neighbor or somebody who's in your household, a spouse or a child or a parent.
The same techniques apply. People want to be acknowledged. People want to be respected. People want to know they're heard, and people want to know that you're not necessarily angry with them, even though you may be angry with them, but you know how to manage that anger. If I go in front of the city council and all I do is shout and I'm angry, and you're sitting up there listening to me, you're going to recoil from what I'm saying. If, on the other hand, the emotions I display are heartfelt and appropriately displayed, and I'm doing things like, for example, not, you guys are always bad, you know, you rip up my street, you don't put things back, but I have a need, again, expressing my need to be able to get in and out of my driveway at night because I want to put my car away, make sure it's safe and so on. And when the street is ripped up very badly for a prolonged period of time, I can't do that. So I've expressed my need and my issue to you as a council person. I can also do the same thing with my children or a spouse. I can say, you know, when you get in too late and bang the doors and so on, it wakes me up, and this is difficult for me. What can we do about this to make that not happen?
Yeah, that's great advice, and it's meaningful to me because a lot of times we have that interaction where if you're coming to a city council meeting, you are probably upset and you feel that something has happened and you don't like it. And it's hard for, I think, the elected bodies sometimes to make sure people know that we do care.
Yes.
And I guess the question I have, this is kind of interesting, how do you go from relaying that we do really care to, well, you didn't do what I asked you to do? And we get that a lot, right? So, so hey, I care, I understand what you're saying, however, the city's not going to move forward in that direction. How do you deal with that? And sometimes that escalates to a disagreement.
It does. You can talk about what we call in the conflict resolution as expanding the pie. Okay, if we can't do this one thing, what else might work for you? As a mediator, I ask a lot of questions because this helps delve into what people really need, what they really want, and maybe what the real issue is. Because many times, but jokingly saying when we get a barking dog case here, it's not really about the dog, it's almost never about the dog. So you ask questions and say, okay, we may not be able to do the exact thing you want, but what's bothering you the most about this? And do you have any ideas of what else we might do? What other things could we do? Rather than telling them, well, we can do A, B, C, and D, ask them, draw the need out and say, what else might we be able to do for you?
And it's like peeling an onion, right? You're getting to the root of that, just going through the layers. And you're not always going to have a winner and a loser, right? And the goal is to have a win-win.
It is, and that's a cliche, but it's one that is so very, very true, that you can find a way where in almost every circumstance, somebody can get something out of the solution. And in many cases, everybody can get something out of the solution. I think asking questions and letting people reevaluate what they're doing, reality checking in usually a very nice, unthreatening way, you can get a lot out of people and let them think, well, okay, fine. If they can't do this, what else might they be able to do?
So tell us a little bit about your services and at what point would maybe somebody in our community need to reach out and say, hey, I need some mediation?
Well, first of all, I'll take that one about when. The earlier the better. Before people have time to really get angry, get dug in their position, have a lot of bad feeling. The neat thing about this service is it's funded by the county. Any resident, whether they're within a municipality or not, can benefit from the services. And you can refer yourself as a citizen. You can have some entity within the city of Lakewood, like code enforcement or the police department, refer the case to us and say, here's what's going on and these are these people. It can be any combination thereof. It doesn't matter. We're very easy to contact.
So let me ask you a question. When somebody comes in, a party comes in to have the mediation, do they agree beforehand that what is determined they'll stick to, or is it binding? How does that work?
Well, there's a lot of variety in that. When people come in, they sign an agreement to mediate. It basically says, I'm here to mediate in good faith. I understand that what we do in this room is confidential. It is not only by practice, it's by law. So that anything that's said and done in mediation, short of an actual written agreement, is confidential. The mediators can't be subpoenaed. The people cannot be subpoenaed. It's an offline process. So we tell them that, and then they are able to talk in a safe environment. And if they do reach an agreement, we can commit it to writing, and that is not automatically confidential, so they can do that. If they don't agree, no harm, no foul. We say they participated, they sat down, and they simply were unable to reach an agreement about that. I will say for neighborhood cases, the kinds of things that are, neighbor stuff, whether it's barking dogs, parking, harassment, loud hot tubs, all of these kinds of things, those settle when people come to the table upwards of 90% of the time with a written agreement.
It's pretty good. It's amazing, and in my 8+ years of serving the citizens of Lakewood, it's the neighbor-to-neighbor issues that are the toughest ones, and they tend to be in these gray areas where there isn't a governmental solution. Probably shouldn't be a governmental solution because you don't want to legislate and make laws based upon an individual case. You're trying to really look out for the whole.
Right.
So this type of service can really be beneficial for the community to really find some relief or some path forward. How about some other benefits?
It saves money for the city because you don't have multiple visits to the same house for the same issue by the sheriff, by animal control, by code enforcement over and over and over again. It saves money for the citizens. They don't have to sue each other. They don't have to go to court. They don't have to be fined. They can simply talk things out. It saves, we laughingly call brain damage to all of the various city officials that have get involved in this, because when you think about it, the things that are hardest for them to do are those gray area things. Yeah. They go out and they say, well, you know, there isn't exactly an ordinance for this, but we'd love to help you. And of course, that doesn't satisfy people very much. The code enforcement officer simply gets berated, somebody goes over his head and so on. We were really created not directly to solve people's problems or help them solve them. We do that, but we were created to reduce that level of stress, brain damage, frustration, and everything that public officials have to endure when they can't simply solve the problem or the people themselves can't do it.
So does this cost a lot of money if I'm a citizen of Jefferson County or a resident of Lakewood and I feel like this is a route that I want to go?
It costs nothing.
Costs nothing.
It is, we're totally funded through the general fund of Jefferson County, and since everybody pays into the property tax and so on that supports that, whether they're within a municipality or not, we serve all the citizens of Jefferson County. We do it in several different ways. I wanted to give you this. This is a summary of all the various areas in which we work and all of our services. If somebody qualifies, and almost everybody does, these are free services. All the community stuff, dogs, noise, harassment, parking, almost anything you can think of between neighbors, we provide that. It's free. Internal things for the city of Lakewood. Let's say a supervisor and an employee don't get along. We can help with internal mediation. We can help with ombud services. If there's something that a road crew does, knocks down a tree, somebody's upset, we can provide ombud services between that county or city department and that particular citizen. We also, although we don't do it yet for the city of Lakewood, we do citizen complainant police mediation. We do this for the sheriff and the city of Wheat Ridge. We recently had a training and trained several more mediators in this concept where people don't actually reach a written agreement. What happens is the officer and the person get a chance to sit down and really share their worldview and why they do what they do. In the recent training, although Wheat Ridge and Jeffco are the only ones who were in the program, Lakewood sent people to participate as role-playing officers. So we had real officers. And of course, there's the courts. If somebody's in small claims court in Jefferson County, they'll have the opportunity to have a mediator. Okay. If they're in Division H, which is like traffic and landlord, tenant, and evictions, they'll have a mediator. If they're in protection order court, and this is something unique to this program that we've developed and is now spreading, if you have a temporary protection order, when you come back for your permanent order, you can have a shuttle conference where you discuss what the conditions of that order might be. All of this is free to the citizens of Jeffco. All of that is
free. This is amazing, and we'll make sure our viewers at home can see a list of this and get a link. I want to really thank you for this great service. It's been a wonderful opportunity as I started this journey to really hear about the great resources we have in the city of Lakewood and in our county that are free and available for people, and really a meaningful service that helps people communicate and helps people better get along, because at the end of the day, we're all better when we communicate in a more effective manner. So thank you for what you do. I want to thank you for tuning in as we continue on our journey through health in the community. I hope you found this interesting. I certainly did, and look forward to applying some of what I've learned in my day-to-day job representing you as Mayor of Lakewood. We'll see you next time.